Of course, the centerpiece of the Nathan and Olive Boone Homestead State Historic Site is the Boone home you see here behind me. Now, this house was completed in 1837. It was originally built by 3 of Nathan's sons and 2 of their slaves. And in 1837, when the family moved in, it was pretty tight quarters because not only did you have Nathan and Olive, you had Olive's mother, 5 of their teenage daughters, and 3 of their sons. So it was pretty tight inside this house. Now, this house is a little bit unique because when it was originally built, it was built in what they call the Appalachian dog trot style. So that means today where you see our front door, that was originally an open breezeway straight from the front porch all the way through the building. The north side was the kitchen and the south side was the parlor, and those were connected by a full-length sleeping loft on the second floor. Now, that design did a couple different things, but number one, it offered a lot of natural cooling for the house. So in the summer, when you've got a fire going in the kitchen to prepare your meals, you've got that breezeway and the air blowing through it to keep the rest of the house cool. I want to take you guys inside and show you the rest. When you enter the home today, you actually enter into the closed-in breezeway. And this breezeway was closed in at about 1840, we believe. Nathan was retired from the military, and one of the things he wanted to do was sort of fancy up the house and bring it up to kind of the social class that he was living in. So the plaster lath that you see, the siding on the outside of the house, that was all added during that early 1850s remodel of the home. And the breezeway actually became kind of a family room, a craft space, a bonus room by today's standards. Olive in this room, we believe by the estate inventory, she had some craft items like you see today. You can also see the steps that are going to the upstairs. Originally, that second floor was accessible only via a ladder out here in the breezeway. And of course, you got the doors that go into the kitchen and the parlor. Also, on the backs of the steps, if you look very closely, you can see some signatures. And these signatures, we believe, date to the Civil War era when at least 4 families squatted illegally or were possibly settled here by the Union Army. We don't know. But for some reason, those families decided to sign their names on the backs of the steps. A couple of the other things that are here in the breezeway that you can see, this little bone was actually found during the restoration of the plasterwork in the early 2000s. This is where I jokingly tell everyone, this is my if these walls could talk moment. I would love to know the story of how the bone makes it into the plaster. We know that the plaster was actually made on site from limestone that was harvested from the property. So you never know, was the gentleman that was making the plaster that day, was he eating lunch, threw the bone into the pot? Were they possibly using some ashes from a kitchen fireplace for fillers? We don't know. And still nearly 180 years later, if you look closely, you can see the name Frank Boone scratched in here in the plaster. Frank was the last great-grandchild raised here on the Boone Homestead. One of my favorite stories that comes out of the Boone Homestead is the story of the shoes that were found inside the wall in the early 2000s during the restoration of the plasterwork. It turns out that the Boones partook in a medieval tradition that's known as concealed shoes. And that tradition states if you place a mismatched pair of shoes, in our case, a child's boot and a woman's shoe, inside the wall, specifically by the front door, that it will ward off evil spirits and it will bring good luck to the house. Now you might think, maybe there's nothing to this. But it turns out that the Boone Homestead has taken 3 direct hits from tornadoes in 1937, 1927, and 1888. The 1937 tornado removed all the original outbuildings that were still standing from the Boone's era. Mrs. Keck, who was living in the Boone home at that time with her family, recounted cleaning up after that storm was like cleaning up millions and millions of matchsticks. The only damage that the Boone home sustained was the top half of the south chimney fell off. There was a section of barns just north of the house. Those were all destroyed. There was a barn standing near where the large tree in the front yard is. That was destroyed. We believe Nathan's original barn that stood directly across the creek, that was destroyed. All kinds of structures were destroyed in this storm. But the Boone home, it survived. Is there something to these shoes? I'll let you make up your mind on that one.